ballot box na DSTV zinafika malidisha iwezi fika. Watoto wanalala njaa juu wewe ulikunywa na pesa ya kula na vizuri unajua pombe iwezi lika. Wanasiasa wanadanganya. Na uchumi imekuwa mbaya ambako kisaidia rafiki yako pesa yako unapoteza rafiki yako na pesa yako.
Hey there and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa, always an exciting time, and today I'm very excited. I have some of the most vocal young people on the Twitter space, or better called X. I don't know at what point we adapt saying X and not Twitter.
For me, it's always Twitter.
Twitter.
It will always be Twitter.
Twitter carries the
Twitter carries.
We're used to Twitter. We don't care about what Elon calls it. We will call it Twitter.
You start with that.
X gives me bad memories. Yeah.
Understandable. Very understandable. So I have two amazing gentlemen with me. Introduce yourselves. Of course, I know them, but so that people can know you the best way you know how.
Nianze. Hello, good people. My name is Ademba, Allans. I'm a journalist by profession, and I'm also an activist and an active citizen.
Wow. Active citizen is very important nowadays.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Willie Oeba. I am a spoken word artist. I work to bridge the gap between what is real and what is possible, and to expand whose stories get told. And I'm a proud Nax vegan.
Okay,
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, nice. I thought you'd start with Mr. President. I don't have the intention of what. But then you can give us. It's amazing. The piece you've posted, the latest is amazing.
On YouTube. Yes, Mr. President is out now on YouTube. Part 2. I did part 1 in 2020. Now this is a sequel. It says, chicken seller amekuwa big fish. Kwa ofisi zao something is always cooking, but si mwananchi ana dish. Uchumi imekuwa mbaya na pesa inapotea kama witness wa ICC. Pesa inapotea kama nywele kwa kichwa ya cabinet secretary wa ICT. Trappings of power ndio zina excite hawa. Vitu kama checks, cash ndio zina excite kina Opio yule Wandae.
This is what you do.
Ati nini inapotea kama nywele?
Sijuzi muliona small fish akibreak the law anakujiwa. Lakini big fish akibreak the law Nurdin Haji.
Very nice. Wow, guys. Check out that piece on, I saw it on Twitter, but you can check it on YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah.
Amazing. Good job you're doing.
Thank
All
you.
of you, by the way, are doing an amazing job in your spaces.
Thank you.
And to start us off now to this conversation, this is a week after the Mandamano that we did, and we met with Ademba actually on the streets last week. When you look at how that went, would you say 1 year later, it was okay for young people to go on the streets?
Okay, may I believe that 1 year later, it was okay for young people to be in the street. Because why? We are still fighting the same fight that we fought last year. Last year, we were fighting for justice, we were fighting for finance bill, we were fighting for competency, accountability, transparency. In the government, you find that the same things are the things that we are still fighting for right now. We're still countering police brutality, which is very rampant these days. You wake up in the morning, somebody's dead, and things like that. Okay, we also fought finance bill, but apparently it was ilipitishwa. And the Ichungwa came out to say, Kimani, what's the name? Okay, I don't care about the name. But ilipita. So you find that, and ignorance that comes with the government, especially when it comes to hearing the voices of the young people, because some of the things that we are fighting for are some of the most crucial things to the normal Kenyan right now. But the government, zero to no time, have they listened to us. So it was okay for us to go to the street to champion for what we believe in. Because at the end of the day, we are the younger people, so we are fighting for our future. And we have to be as vigilant as enough in making sure that the future that we want is achieved. So it was okay for us to be on the streets.
It was okay. Willie, from where you sit, there are things, of course, he's raising that took people to the street.
Yeah.
And according to what he feels, which is actually the feeling of most Kenyans, nothing has been done to meet those needs. Yeah. Why do you think the government for 1 year then did not meet the exact needs that took people to the street, that it had to take, again, another street protest to push for the same?
Because literally the government does not care. The government wants to overwhelm the citizens with so much so that the citizens get numb. And and lose their resolve to fight for what is right. So we champion for ending police brutality, and then when we go to the streets, they shot someone else in very close plain sight, because the government wants to numb people. They want to throw scandals here, right, left, center, so that we say nothing will change, so that we remain with the status quo. And the question that you asked, if it is okay to go to the streets, right now, as we, like this place that we are right now, the only language that the regime and the government of the day understands is protest. Because we've tried. Dialogue, it doesn't work. So the only thing that this regime understands right now is protest, but they're trying to criminalize protest. Like you saw that DCI arrested Kina John, Kina Garang, Kina Chebukati, because they're trying to clamp down on human rights defenders. They have tried propaganda tags like paid activism, so that deliberately they try to alienate people from the streets, because that is the language that they understand. Personally, I was out for like 3 months, and I was supposed to come the week after. But I came because we belong to the streets, kama Jehovah Witness. So yes, and we will still go to the streets until the government really understands that the power of the people is greater than the people in power.
Okay. And when you look at how the whole conversation went, or the debate, or the fiasco, whichever word you want to use, we were on the streets, yes. And then there was a lot of police brutality, as you put it. And we saw it, actually, because we lost Boniface Kariuki to that. When you look at that, why do you think then the cops are very comfortable, or what makes the police feel so okay with being so brutal with the citizens to a point of shooting them?
Okay, personally, I've come to conviction that I think these police officers usually have the order of shoot to kill during the protest, in a way to create fear in the protesters to maybe stop the protest to go back home. Why am I saying this? I will give you 2 case scenarios. Why am I saying this? When you watch the case of Boniface Kariuki, the 22-year-old mask vendor that was shot in front of Imenti House, along Imenti House, on June 20th, what happened was Boniface Kariuki was peacefully standing away from the protesters, trying to distance himself from the mass protesters. And 2 police officers, that is Clincy Barasa and the other one was called Duncan Kiprono. I remember the names because I've been on their case for a long time. Casually approached Boniface Kariuki, who is just standing there peacefully, holding mask on his hands. After a short altercation with the mask vendor and the 2 police officers, they shoot him point blank, close range to the head, and they leave him for dead. And this police officer walk away nonchalantly, just going from where they came from. Take this another case of Joshua Stephen from Kasarani. Joshua Stephen was in the protest following the death of Abigail Wanjiku. Abigail Wanjiku was raped and killed the day before. That was on June 19th. On June 16th. When was the death actually? But that doesn't matter. He was on the street because of the death of Abigail Wanjiku. And this police officer is seen shooting at these peaceful protesters. And while he's shooting, there's a standby or a getaway motorbike waiting for them. Once he shoots, he bought these motorbikes and takes off. What does this insinuate? Or what does this imply? That these people are under the order of shoot to kill. And to me, I think they are using this to create fear to the masses. And when we are saying this, we only have the case of these 2 police officers in custody or under law because people were able to unmask their faces. If we had not unmasked their faces, there would be no case until today. Let us use the case of Joshua Stephen. Nobody is even convinced that there's a police officer in custody or IPOA has arrested someone following the case of the shooting of Joshua Stephen. So when these police officers come to the street, I believe that they have the orders of shoot to kill. Okay, also look at the case of Rex Masai. Rex Masai was shot on 20th of June last year while running away from the police officer. Look at all the cases of shootings that happened on June 25th last year, in front of the parliament. All these people were shot while running away from the parliament, not going to the parliament, but running away. What does this imply? They have the order of shoot to kill. And to government, I don't think that is a good thing, because at the end of the day, Article 37 of the Kenyan Constitution provide law, give Kenyans the right to peacefully picket, protest, or demonstrate, or whatever you want to call it. And now that these people are in the street to champion for their rights, why kill them in the process? And if you follow Amnesty International reports, over 60 deaths from June 18th last year until today are because of gunshots. From who? From the police, not from the thugs. So to me, I think the police have a order of shoot to kill.
Okay, the 60 was actually for last year. This year, amnesty on that between the two demos was actually 16. The number is 16, so it's quite a huge number considering it's 2 days. I don't know why we would have 16 people dead in 2 days. That's quite sad. Willie, from your perspective, he's spoken about police having the shoot-to-kill order. I don't know if you saw the speech, the street speech by the CS for security, CS Murkomen, and how did that make you feel?
It didn't augur well with me, and that is what they say in closed doors. If you see policemen come out with so much impunity because they know someone else is protecting them, they're giving them false confidence. And Murkomen went ahead saying, because I am a lawyer, even if you're taken to court, I will pay for it and I will represent you in court. So he says like he'll use everything, every resource that he has by his side to protect rogue police officers. And the police, it was supposed to be a police service. At first it was the Kenya Police Force, and then it changed to a National Police Service. But we cannot alienate the incidents that happened with Boniface Karaoke from the police, because that is a rogue system, the entirety of the Kenya Police Force. I will not say service because it's not. It's very rogue. And I was almost shot in 2017 for mistaken identity in Nakuru, because I started spoken word in 2014. And 21st January in 2017, that's my mom's birthday, I was going into town to pick a cake for her birthday, and I had sweatpants, a sweatshirt, 2 phones, like classic stereotype, because there was a gang in Nakuru dubbed Confirm, and they were looking for someone who looked like me. So they were looking at a phone, and one police officer who had uniform was like notably drunk. And they cocked a gun and put it on my head, and I hit the gun, it went to the road, and then they left even the gun there. We followed up with IPOA, and it was very crazy. So on from like that point, I started using my poetry to talk about enforced disappearance and extrajudicial killings, because if we stop writing, then what happens to people who cannot hold a pen? But the police, as is constituted, is not pro-people. They are there to guard the elites, the politicians, because ideally the freedom to protest is enshrined in the 2010 Constitution, and we have one of the best constitutions. We have a whole chapter 4 that is dedicated to human rights, the Bill of Rights, one of the best, but the Constitution is a living document, and it is as good as the implementation. So on paper it says so much, but the leaders are not willing to fulfill. So the politician is the police force is an organized gang for the politicians. So they do all the dirty work. I was around OTC when the Quick Mart incidents happened. And the police were just looking at people looting and everything. They came way after. So they, at their convenience, and they were harassing people to take some laptops and put them in their car. They will say that is exhibit, but they also break into shops during protests. And ideally, the police force is supposed to guard property and guard protesters, and that is how it's supposed to be. But it's very sad.
What's then the danger? Because we've even seen the protests before 25th. I don't remember the date. But that protest, we saw quite a number of goons occupy the streets, and they were walking with the police.
Exactly.
And of course that has caused jitters among the public, because why would the police be okay with goons harassing people and doing nothing? When you look at that and look at the Kenyan political space, what do you feel is the danger of having political goons? Not just for protests, generally, for a country.
Okay, first of all, I'm even in question. Why would politicians or the Kenyan government be okay with having goons during protest? Because goons come knowing that they are protected. So whatever they do, they will do it knowing that they are protected. They will never be arrested anywhere. And we've had a couple of them actually coming online to say that we are goons, but we've not seen any arrest. Okay, let's use the most example cases that we have. There's this guy, don't know if a content creator or a goon content creator, Swale coming on camera saying that they will be coming to the street on June 25th to fight the peaceful protesters, actually recording themselves saying that. And before that, it was not on the street on June 25th. I'm convinced of that because we never saw him. But the protest before that, we saw goons actually infiltrating the protest. I am actually a casualty of the goons because I was beaten up, I was roughed up, and my phone was broken and a lot of things. That was before June 25th. And okay, unfortunately, June 25th, let me say, I broke my phone again. But before that...
I met you very devastated at around nation meeting.
Yeah. But before that, the goons were there, and the goons were actually terrorizing the people who were peacefully protesting. The goons had whips, the goons had rungus, the goons were... At some point, they even had their own tear gas canister they were throwing at people. And that gives you the question, who actually is supposed to be owning tear gas in Kenya? I think tear gas are meant for mostly police officers and also police officers who are in charge of curbing things like protest. And when you see a gun with something like a tear gas canister, that gives you the conviction that this person is being protected by someone. And this person, no matter what he has or no matter what he's going to do, nothing is going to happen. Because at the end of the day, we've seen a lot of people have been arresting, following the protest that happened. And I'm convinced that these are not the actual people that were in the street as goons. These goons were protected. Look at the case of people like the viral case of Adwera, the guy from Kibera, that was all fired from being a FKF referee because he was in the street recording himself going to beat people and saying that he's a goon and nobody's going to disturb the peace in Nairobi because of the protest. So these people know that they are protected, and these people will do anything at the end of the day. And to the government, why are you comfortable with goons being in the street? Because when a goon comes in the street, it doesn't care whether he's going to beat someone, whether he's going to kill this person, or whether anything that is going to happen to this person. At the end of the day, they have their faces covered up and they know that they are protected. And the government, at the end of the day, when the case comes to the worst part of it, they will sell you out. Because if you are caught on camera as an individual, the government will go for you an individual, not as a group of people that you are within the street. So to the goons also, if you call yourself a goon, because I think being a goon has also become a form of employment. At the end of the day, people are depending on that because they know they will be paid. And the worst thing, when I were promised, 2,000, 200, 1,000, at the end of the day, the people who are supposed to be paying them get away with this money because unapata goons anakuja kulia kwa camera that he was never paid. Unapata goons are in hospital because of the injuries that they walipata kwa the street. They have not been paid. So they lipia for these injuries, for the medical bills, things like that. So to the government, actually watch on your move and follow the constitution of Kenya and respect the people who put you in power. As Oeba said, the power belongs to the people, not the people in power.
First of all, to make it very clear, the police is an organized gang. First of all, there are goons on payroll because the definition of a goon is an organized gang who inflict terror on the peaceful protesters in that matter for this case. So the police, first of all, without the goons, the police do the gooning because they beat up. Have you seen the police conduct during protest? Even around downtown, they try being modest. They try to be very modest uptown towards Kimathi Street. But if you cross around Afya Center and the other side around KTDA, it's very crazy. And the police...
No, what do they do? Because the much I have covered has actually been up to, let's say, Kimathi. I've not gone beyond that.
If you go around OTC, they beat people. They beat people with the sticks. The police had those sticks even before the goons were like introduced to the sticks.
Yeah.
So they beat people around there. They loot shops, like seriously, crazily. They have police even with plain clothes. And now the government knows that they have lost legitimacy and they don't want people out in the streets. And if people were left to exercise their power directly, because we can do that directly and indirectly, and one of the ways directly is going to the streets and show discontent with the regime of the day. If they did not close roads, Jogo Road, they closed roads around Stadium, so people were not going into town everywhere, June 25th. If people were left to flood the streets of Nairobi, I believe we would have 3 to 5 million people in Nairobi, because other people also came to Nairobi for the protest. But the police curtailed every effort to have people in Nairobi because they know they have lost legitimacy. But they want to justify the use of force. Now they put goons so that it looks like people are fighting, the protesters are rowdy, so that like other people don't come to the streets. And it's very crazy because if I was the president, I would not rule a nation that is dissatisfied with me being president.
If you're President Ruto today,
I cannot be president.
Of course you can't. You're not even the
I cannot be Ruto.
As President Willie today,
yes.
Knowing how Kenya is, what would be like your 3 steps to fixing 3? Because of course there are a million things to fix. But what would be the top 3 that can at least sort the nation?
I will just tell you one. Just follow the rule of law. Just follow the Constitution. It fixes everything. The spirit of the constitutionalism, one thing that the current regime lacks. I don't know why, but they don't follow the Constitution. They don't follow the law in every aspect. And we are in this position right now because the ruling class don't follow the rule of law. If they followed the rule of law, then everything would be okay.
Rule of law.
Yeah.
Okay. From where you sit, there is the rule of law. Then there are factors or things that Kenyans want sorted. What would be, as president, what would be the 3 things that you would maybe even advise President Ruto to fix? Like 1, 2, 3. Constitution, check. We've put as number 1.
For Kenyans, right now the biggest problem that we have, let me say, what constitutes 90% of the problem that we have, first of all, is unemployment. And apart from, let me start with unemployment, because I was to go to education, but a lot of Kenyans are actually educated but are unemployed. The other day, I saw an activist, Marvin Mabonga, go to TV station, say that he is a university graduate, electrical engineering, but since 2022, he has been unemployed, no job at all. So you see, when not goons, when Kenyans go to the street to champion for things, the first thing that usually stand out is the issue of unemployment among the youths. So you find if we could have a systematic way of doing away with unemployment, and we can actually do this thing through a lot of things. We can also, first of all, we can invest in our industrialization, because a lot of people have this education that they are taking nowhere if there is no industrialization. And you find that Kenya, we focus more on the donor helps, fundings, while we can do this thing on our own. That is industrialization. We can as well focus on some of the things that the government are trying so much to control than investing in these things to create employment. There was a point in time that the Kenyan government championed for Facebook to start paying people. And they actually did that. I believe there are people earning from Facebook, right? Let's say right now, a bigger percentage, let's say 45% of Kenyans are actually on TikTok. So why not just find a way of making sure that even TikTok pays Kenyans? Because people now depend on content creation more. And the generation that we have, they're educated, they are unemployed. Find different way of making sure that these people are employed. Because you are in the government, you are the president, maybe you are the minister of sports, you are the minister of art and everything. You are in a position to create employment for these people. And let us just be honest, there are people who have degrees and are unemployed. Don't push these people to Mjengo. I know people say that Mjengo is employment. Yes, Mjengo is employment. And people say that because you have a degree, you are not eligible to be in Mjengo. At some point you can. Why am I saying this? You see, if you create an enabling environment for these graduates, for these educated young people, even the uneducated, for them to create employment. Because if I have a degree and I'm not employed anywhere, and you created an enabling environment for me to create this employment, this means that I will also be in a position to employ 50 other young Kenyans, 50 other unemployed Kenyans. I don't want to be stuck on young Kenyans because a lot of people are unemployed. So first of all, create to us an enabling environment for us to create employment. How are you going to create this? Even look at the taxation process that you do. Because Kenyans, we are overtaxed and we don't see result for overtaxations. When people fight the finance bill, it's not that they are not contented with the finance bill. They don't see the result of you having this finance bill, yet it is not working to them. So create incentives to these people, give these people fundings, give these people even loans to create these businesses. You come up with Hustler Fund. Mimi, I'm a university student. I'm a fourth year university student. But unanipea loan ya 500, you want me to start a business. How is this going to work for me? You see? So focus on creating enabling environment for Kenyans to do some of the things that can create them employment. If you are not going to create employment for them, let them create an employment by making sure that the environment that they live, they can actually do this. You find that owning some of the businesses in Nairobi are expensive because of the government. To a point that I'm educated youth from Kibera, but unapata kuanzisha a business that I can actually do is 200,000. And it's 200,000 because government is taking 50,000 from this. So how am I going to do this?
So taxation needs to be relooked. I
and
hope
funny thing, all of these very good policies and guidelines, we have them because we have very smart people who have figured how to maneuver around all these. But one of the problems, that is why I tell you, if I was in that position, I would just follow the rule of law. We are here because of the debt, the debt ceiling, the odious debts. And they created another account, very unconstitutional, when the current president was a vice or a deputy president, and we're in this position right now. Right now we are still struggling with the disease, ignorance, and poverty. Since 1963, the youth are overtaxed, the people are overtaxed, the youth are overpromised, and most of these policies are very unconstitutional. As Ademba said, we are overtaxed, but we don't see where our taxes go. There are no services. You see, a country like Holland, they pay 49% of the tax, but they can see where their tax go. And they are very loyal towards paying taxes because it is working for them. So right now, because I'm always also just to be fair, we study so that we can get formal employment, but sometimes that is not the right way to look at it, because for me, education needs to get to you at a point of self-realization, so that every other thing that you touch, you can do it as one who has gone through an education system, one who understands, one who knows how to network, communicate with people. So you can work in any field. You can start your formal employment. But also there is no they don't follow proper policies and guidelines and incentives to actually activate self-employment towards the young people. So they keep putting punitive taxes, punitive laws to keep on diminishing the young people. But they know what they are doing, because lengo and the motive is to keep the people poor so that they can buy them cheap. And Kenya is in a very vital place in the geopolitics, because even the Western nations, they want Kenya to keep on moving. And that is why you have UN here, and we have other nations coming to Kenya to create their republics from Kenya, because they want Kenya to keep moving. Kenya is like the big brother of Africa. So that even if kuna irreducible minimums, they just want Kenya to keep on moving. And right now, you would find the young people, because so many human rights issues have been contravened by the current president, but you'd still see the Dutch king still coming to Kenya. And when they came to Kenya, I was invited to perform, but I declined, because right now they have reduced the human rights issues. It has been swept under the table. And now it's about trade. It's about, because, like, for example, the royal family in the Netherlands, they own the shell companies. Netherlands is very small. It's a very small country. But most of the things are exported from Kenya. And we as Kenyans cannot afford, half of the population skips meals, but a bullet never misses. So they sweep everything below the table. They sweep the human rights issues below the table because they just want Kenya to keep on moving. But the question is, how much can Kenyans take? How much more can they take? And President William Ruto, he's a perfect example. He's a perfect example for a puppet president. He's a perfect candidate because he has so much dirt on him. So they control him like a puppet. They tell him, do this, because he knows if he stops playing to their games, he'll be taken to the ICC. So Kenya is not ruled by Ruto and Kina Mudavadis and all of them. They are just puppets.
But how much of how much of Western influence do you think runs the country, and why is it going on 63 years later?
Yeah.
Why? The why?
Because they want Kenya to keep on moving. They want to use Kenya to control the whole.
Not in that aspect. Like
why?
as introspection as Kenyans. Like, how are we at that point where we can say we have a lot of Western influence and it's not stopping? Yet we have a citizen of 52 million people.
Oh, yes, because the citizens have been disenfranchised. Because when we had protests, as I came from like campus in 2019, I'm coming into the society. I need to pay help loans. I need to pay. My mom is sick. I need to start paying NHIF and SHIF and all of that. I have some other loans. Maybe I get a small job, minimum wage or something. I take some mortgage or some. I take loans here and there. I need to repay loans. I take a car because I need to like drive going to work. So most of the Kenyans are living on debt. And this is a systemic issue because they have designed it like that so that they can be able to control people. So even as you saw like last year, when the middle class was pushed so hard, people had to say, hey, by now, wachaneni na hizi protests sasa. You know, the youth can sustain protest every day because they have little to less than, like, they don't have anything to lose. They have nothing to lose, almost nothing to lose. But we have another class whereby I see kina Ademba kiwatukana sana online. On Twitter wanasema, older millennials kidogo, because they have so much to lose. Wako na mortgage, wako na loans, wanafaa walipe, wako na so much. When you disrupt the system kidogo, their calendar kidogo, even 3, 4, 5, 6 days, wanasema hapana bana, wacha mambo iendelee kuenda vile inaendelea. Because the government has used so much systems to control the common person. You have so much weight, so that one day of protest, that is bearable. But 2 weeks, and then at the end of the month, nikikosa kwenda mboka, nafaa kulipa aje loan, nafaa kulipa nini. So everybody needs to sacrifice, because we are still ruled by a punitive system, because we have the issue of self. Everyone is pulling to their side. But if there's need a total overhaul, then it's a lot of sacrifice needs to be made, but not so many people are ready to have that conversation.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Ademba, I hear unawatusi yuko online. When you look at it, the whole idea of people, everyone having to pull their weight, you know, like, I want to pay my rent, I want to pay my school, I want to have food and all that. And that's why maybe protests cannot be sustained on a daily. And now you're talking about Saba Saba. So are you people still planning to have protests on Saba Saba? And if yes, then for what? And after for what is the expectation?
You know, for Saba Saba, I've seen a lot of people come with different reasons to be in the street. When I say different reasons for being on the street, that already tells you that there's a lot of problems. If we had one reason, then it would mean that we have one problem.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to the street on Saba Saba, and I'll be on the street on Saba Saba. I have to admit that. You see, right now, we are fighting a lot of cases, and I've said that all over and over again. We are still fighting extrajudicial killing. We're still fighting corruptions. We're still fighting even the government being incompetent to the point that somebody like Murkomen coming on camera and saying that if somebody approaches the government building, let's say police station, then you have an order to shoot and kill them. And these are all CS that show the level of incompetency that these people have. And that is what we were fighting for last year, one of them. Don't know what we were fighting for, but one of the things that we were fighting for, incompetency in these government positions. And one of the things that the youth are actually going on the street to fight again is still unemployment rate in Kenya. And we want the government to address things like unemployment. Yes, I'm not going to say that we are the perfect people to fight unemployment, because unemployment is a global issue. But you find that there are some countries that have managed to reduce this or just find a way of dealing with unemployment. But what has Kenya done? Promises here and there, promises here and there. And when people are saying that we are going to the street to fight for these things, first of all, it's up to the government to listen to us, not to fight us. The best way to deal with such protests is actually listening to what the people are going to protest about. So Saba Saba is happening on Monday. And you see everybody has come out to say that, okay, I'm going to the street because there's unemployment. I'm going to the street because there's still police brutality. I'm going to the street because there's still corruption. I'm going to the street because I want the president of Kenya to resign. That Ruto must go. I'm going to the street because we want an overhaul in the all government system. We want all the government system to go, and we put in a new blood, the young blood because we want progressive mindset when it comes to governance in Kenya. Time has proven that the people that we have, they are not the progressive mindset that we have, because they are the people that have been in the government for the longest time possible. Right now, we have a cabinet secretary for ICT. Trust me, I'm pretty sure right now, if I ask the cabinet secretary for ICT, what is VPN? He will not be in a position to answer.
Why are you so sure? VPN umempeleka sana. Mwambie aseme, what is internet?
What is internet? What is Wi-Fi in full? I'm pretty sure that the cabinet secretary for IT will not be in a position to answer that. So when we are going to fight for overhaul in the government, the old regime, we have the actual regime to go. That's why unapata people coming with hashtags, Ruto must go. And we're fighting. We are going to the street because that, as Willie said, that's the only lugha that these people understand, actually. When we are online, they take us for, I don't know, because these people didn't grow up with internet. So they don't see the power of internet. These people grew up with people going to the street, and that's why now we are going to confront them one-on-one basis. Because, okay, you've proven that you don't listen to what we say on the internet, now meet us on the ground. And that is what has been happening from last year to this day. People will still go to the street if they are not heard past Saba Saba. Because, as Willie said again, we are the younger generation, and we can be on the street for the rest of our lives. We have nothing to lose. Mimi, I myself am unemployed. I'm unemployed, and I struggle to sustain my life. And if the only way that I can make sure that the government that I want to, that the government that is supposed to make sure that I can sustain my life is going to listen to me is being on the street, I'll definitely be there. I'll definitely be there. And I'll always say this, that the government that we have is of the older generation. Let us be honest. Everybody that we have in government, not everybody, but a bigger percentage that we have in government, let me say 45% past going up of the people we have in government are the older generation. Our watu walipigania Kenya in the second liberation. And what were they fighting for? What we have right now. So what we are living right now ni future ya some people. Sisi tunapigania future yetu. Hawa watu wenye sahi wako kwa serikali hawana any other future. 10, 15 years to come, most of them will not be here. Sisi the younger people, 10, 15 years to come tutakuwa hapa. Wacha tuseme ukweli. Let us be realistic, ama brutally honest. Watu hawatakuwa hapa in the next 20 or 15 years. Because some of them, most people are over 60 years. Tukue na the mortality rate, hakuna msee mwenye ufika 120 or 50 years from now, 150 years from now. So we are fighting for our future, 20 years to come, 15 years to come, ni watoto wetu watakuwa wanaenda shule. And we don't want a situation where mtoto wako anakuja kulia that, mom, I'm not able to pay school fees. Yet we have the right time to fight for this thing. Mom, I'm not in a position to buy pads because the government will make a taxation on pads. We have the most crucial time to fight for these things. So if we are fighting for our future, these people don't belong in this future. That's why tukisema overhaul, tusukume watu waende home. Please stand with us. Fagia watu wote waende home. We want new blood who reason like the younger generation, who will have the same, who will reason on what we want in the next 15 years. These people right now are fighting to maintain their wealth. They have gained a lot of wealth at the expense of normal mwananchi, that right now they're just trying to have power to control what they have, to sustain what they have. Umejua, what they're fighting for right now actually ni wealth. Maybe the 5th generations that come after them. But mimi napigania what I will eat tomorrow. Mimi napigania what I will eat next week. Mimi napigania what I will eat sapa ya leo. So let's just forget about wote waende home. Hawana future, ni future yetu tunapigania. Already wako kwa future yao.
That is very deep and I love it. Willie, when you look at it, you've said you were invited for a performance and you said no.
Yes.
However, there's still a group of people who feel there's a lot of paid activism on the streets, and I don't want to look at it from the government side of view, because the government said they're being sponsored by politicians. So minus that. You spoke about Westerners making sure Kenya runs. Do you also feel that these Westerners then put in some money in this protest so that... then how do innocent Kenyans now identify what is paid activism and what is genuine activism?
Great. There are two things, like two classic scenarios that, our government is one big propaganda machinery. And people fall for psyops, and that has become a banal on X. Everyone says psyops. What is this psyop? But the one is the whole idea about Gen Z. And I believe, because I saw how the protest started, how Devin D started arguing online with Akina Hanifa, and how it came to be. And how people started saying Gen Z, because they wanted to they wanted to what is it called? Infantry, like infantilize the revolution. They wanted people to see, to pacify the message, to see it like people are fighting for very petty issues. That is why the Kimani Ichung'wah came with, these people are going to the streets with iPhones and Ubers and KFC. And they pulled their card, but it backfired. They said, parents, speak to your children. And we agreed, okay, we are Gen Zs. 60-year-olds said we are Gen Zs. Everyone said we are Gen Zs, but we'll still come to the streets, because they wanted for it to look like a generational war. Because now Kenya is more classist than it is tribalist. That is why you see even the same tribal people from the same tribal line, we also have classism. And that is why we have oligarchs speaking for different tribes and all that. So that is one. They tried using the Gen Z tag to pacify the message. Two, the government did not succeed in that. So in Nakuru, Ruto made a very careless statement and said, other people are getting paid, and invoked the organizations and international organizations, and said, these people are getting paid by organizations, we'll close down these organizations. Some of these organizations have been in Kenya for the longest time. And I know he saw like other institutions getting supported by these organizations, like the LSK, other organizations like Defenders Coalition, people who are helping protesters during June 25th. And he said, I'll do clampdown on organizations. And he sold the idea about paid activism. So we have organizations that have been working in Kenya for a long time to curb issues, and they have their own problems. Most of these organizations, also as a spoken word artist, I have been cancelled by some of the non-governmental organizations because of a piece like, I did a piece dubbed Uhuru Maliza Wende, and I was cancelled by one non-governmental organizations because at that time they were supporting a different faction, and they thought Uhuru Maliza Wende means Ruto aendelee. But in between that piece I was saying Uhuru si individual ni regime, Uhuru ni police wote wamekill, Uhuru ni extrajudicial killings, Uhuru ni, I was declassifying what Uhuru means and the new the need of a new regime. So the government capitalized on paid activism so that they would antagonize the masses and say some people are getting paid by non-governmental organizations to go to the streets, whereas some other people are getting paid. So other people felt, we are not getting paid and you guys are getting paid, I'm not going to the streets. But they forgot the problems that people are having are much bigger than propagandas. So people are out in the streets because of extrajudicial killings. People are out in the streets because of police brutality. So they use propaganda to pacify the message, but they don't solve the problem. And that is why we still having youth bulge. Even in 2025, we are still talking about the same problems we had from 1963. And it's very reckless because they are postponing the message. They keep postponing the revolt, and it will be very bad. So the issue about paid activism, that is government propaganda, because you see some of the things that sometimes are peddled online, and you wonder, is it me or me you? I saw they saying, some people saying there's one paid activism and NIS, and you see and commercial activism. You see, Willie Oeba has been groomed by the NIS for the last 11 years to pacify the message for this time.
Have you been paid so?
For 11 years by the NIS. Where was I? 11 years. You know, you can see some things written online, and you're like, whoever believes this must be crazy, you know, and because that is like the last kicks of a dying horse. The government is very desperate, and they're using propaganda to solve a real problem, other than bridging the gap between what is real and possible and giving people hope and doing what people are saying, but they use propaganda. It's very desperate of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting take. Now that he's spoken about propaganda and payment, you know, there are guys who say, because you were part of the BBC documentary that was done, that you people were paid to appear on that by either BBC or the UK. Is it true?
Well,
and how much? How many euros do you have to your name?
You know, I was to start answering that question in a certain way, but I remember Kenyans usually just clip that part and they forget the rest of the part. So let me just answer it in another way. People saying that you paid, or let me say commercial activism, being paid to be on the BBC, the PSYOPs, and everything like that, those are narratives. First of all, for BBC documentary, I myself, and it took me time to believe that I'm going to be part of the BBC documentary. And if you studied media, you don't pay subjects to be on your video or to be on your film. Because once you pay me, I will say what you want me to say. You control me. So me being on the BBC documentary came as a blessing to me, not monetary-wise, as people think that I was paid. Actually, we were paid nothing. I went to the studios with my own money, then I got back with my own money. And also to make it clear, we didn't even expect the reaction that came with the documentary. It was just a release, just like any other documentary. It's just that it got all that attention. People have dubbed me paid by the BBC documentary for the longest time possible. Sometimes I ignore the questions because, okay, I'll continue answering the same question for 20 years. 20 years from now, still somebody will say that Ademba was paid to be on the BBC documentary, of course. What happened is I was on the street like any other young journalist. I was actually in third year by that time. So I just went there to record the videos because as a journalist, you know the value of having such videos 20 years to come. And I just recorded the video. BBC reached out, and to be brutally honest, when BBC reached out to me, it was the most crucial time that Kenyans were in. I myself knew that this is the government that wants to abduct me. I have to be honest, because over 1,000 journalists were on the street during that time. Over 100,000 people were on the street during that time. But BBC reached out to me. I was not by any other media house. Actually, that time I was a content creator because I was just doing it to store the videos and to live stream what was happening. But BBC reached out to me. And these people telling me that, oh, we are BBC, and they use the UK accent. I just knew that is somebody in Kenya who is acting on the accents, just to drive me to this location. And I actually sent a lot of SOS messages when I was going to do that documentary to different people that if you don't see me in the next 1 hour, mujue mimi nimekufa. Wake up or free Ademba or something. So I was not ready for that, but to make it clear, I was never paid to be part of the documentary. Okay, sometimes you have to see past the monetary value of something. Because if I had been paid to do that documentary, then it means that I would have gone against my own principles of standing for what is right, standing for justice, standing for the normal Kenyan, or also showcasing what is happening in Kenya to the outside world or to the actual Kenyans. If I was paid, I would have gone with the narrative of what BBC wanted us to do. And it's so funny. If I was paid, then how much was Babu Owino paid? If I was paid, then how much was Faith Odhiambo paid? How much was Anifa paid? Oh, no, Kasmul was not on the documentary. But to make it clear, I was not paid. And let us come back to the question of... really commercial now. Activism, psyops, and paid activist. Just the other day, I was called a commercial activist. I was called a psyop. Because actually for one of the most basic nonsensical reasons. So after June 25th, actually it was June 25th, then I went back to CBD on June 27th to repair my phone. It was broken. Then I tweeted that I'm in Nairobi CBD, and the rate at which Kenyans move on is really crazy because it was operating like nothing had happened. Whoa, people misquoted that. And the common bimbo that we have in Kenya that is called Gaido were the ones driving the narrative that this person was paid. You see? So it is okay. It is okay because at the end of the day, if I was paid, what hata mimi sasa utaniona na Benz by the way.
but let us demystify the cognitive dissonance among the populace in Kenya. For example, we hold very peaceful Kenyans having their private lives, protecting human lives, very active citizens. We hold them to a pedestal and we have certain level. These people are not supposed to do this. They're supposed to be like this. They're supposed to, but through our own taxes, we pay MPs. Our MPs are one of the most paid. So just to make it clear, I, Willie Oeba, I'm a spoken word artist. To have me perform at your gig, you must pay me.
Yes.
So if that is paid activism, you must pay. You will pay. Because I have to eat, I have to take care of other things, and I put into my craft. I put so much into my craft. If you had other artists, other mainstream artists come perform at your gig, you pay them. But if you want me to come perform at your gig for free just because I champion for human rights, then I think we have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So if that is what qualifies me to be a paid activist, then be my guest. Yes, so be my guest. But the issue is also that we have people who have put like money on the forefront, and we have to address that because we have people who have put money, that like the love for money is bigger than the love for cause. Now that becomes paid activism. If you pay me to perform, I have performed for the judicial events a couple of times, and I don't tune my message to praises and praise and worships. I tell Mother Kome, I've told her a couple of times, kwa nchi hata Chief Justice and a cry for justice. And in February, she came to me and told me that line is very powerful. I saw it on X and she laughed about it, but it is true. So if I get paid to perform in certain events and I'm still, I can decide because I'm also risking my bag if I'm getting paid because corporates don't want that. They don't want it when they call me for a show. Then the piece that I do is pesa ya kisima wanaiba, and that's the damn truth. Some of them have had to cancel me for that. You see, I can decide to sing any other thing even if I get paid for a gig, but I just choose my social justice message. But we have people who put the money bigger than the cause, and now that becomes paid activism. And now if the motive is I'll go to the street so that I can justify I was in the streets, I can write reports and get paid for that. Now that becomes paid activism. But we have bigger problems than that. So if you want to know, like a government propagandist, what is the motive of focusing on the 1%, of activists who are doing that per se, allegedly, and forgetting the 99% who come daily out in the streets and voluntarily do their work, And I also get this triggered when people start canceling artists online. They say, we've bid a certain artist, but they're not talking about the movement. They're not talking about this, and people start name dropping. But the same people are not supporting the artists who are doing that. They're not supporting the artists who are. So people are always focusing on what's not been done and not empowering what other people are doing. So if someone really focuses on that simple topic, then it means they are propagating for the government because they want to deflate the movement. Because since 2022, I've been going to matatus. Initially I was taking one route, 1 week, Kawangware, every day. I know all the dondas and deres since 2022. Even before people started calling Ruto Zakayo. I have a piece called Dear Citizen. I talked about Zakayo on that piece. And then in 2024, you'd say, I saw someone say, Trump aliingia akakata pesa ya USAID. At sasa Willie endangi kwa matatu because pesa ya USAID imekatwa. Sikuwa naenda kwa matatu juu movement ilitokea, nilienda since 2022 before kukuwe hata na protest. Why? Because I want to use my voice to amplify the message. And none is bigger than the other. If everyone can do what they can do in their own little spaces, even going home and loving your family right, then Kenya itakuwa better society. If you treat everyone with dignity, Kenya itakuwa better society.
How impactful would you say your poetic pieces have been in terms of using the matatu way of civic education, so to say?
Yeah. The Kenyan society is very conservative, more so in Nairobi. You would get mugged and people would look at you and be very skeptical that you want to mug them, using that as a skit. So when we went to matatus, people are very uptight. And we would talk to people and they didn't want to respond because they were like, huyu ni rasta, huyu na hauzi kitu, huyu ni nani huyu? Huyu si pasta, huyu si pasta, na huyu ni nani, na hauzi dawa ya mende. Like I said, mimi ni rasta pasta. And with time people started opening up, because one, I've used poetry to amplify since 2017. And I realized, for a better time, poetry imekujeka kwa like a secret society. And we would charge $15, people come. But this message that we are speaking, it belongs to the people. So I talked to a friend of mine, Anito Brian Silwes. I told him, we need to take this message out to where the people are. So because a classic secret society, we get the same people all the time. We feel the spaces, KNT and all of that, but it gets tiresome because we need e-message as social justice. We need to take it out to the people, and that is when we started the civic education through spoken word. One, to mainstream the use of words, because word is very powerful. And for a long time, I felt that spoken word had been very underrated, and it's very powerful if people listened to, forget the noise, if you listen to the words, it's very inspiring. And all of these things that we say in the poetry, they're not special. They don't have anything unique. People know all of these things that we say, but what we do is inspire hope and keep the conversation going as we are doing right now. So we said we will start going to matatus. And now people have started indulging into the craft. And I always say my idea is to change how people view the art of words. Because we've had every other, very dope poets, even before me. But the issue has been you get to a certain level, and then people don't understand, what you're doing. But because not the larger population has indulged into the use of words, one, plainly, and also use of words for social change, what now other people call activism. Because even when we started in 2017, I was featured also on Wajinga Nyinyi with King Kaka. And even that time, people were saying, why are you politicizing art? Why are you using art for social change? Why are you doing that? So the idea was to show people it's normal. You can use spoken word to talk about social issues, to talk about political issues, because also in Kenya, artists are not respected. I used to be called to gigs and they would talk about very serious issues, and then they'll say, there's entertainment here, and then you would perform like entertainment, like a breather. But now you perform a piece and then there's a panel to like deconstruct what you've said in that piece. So it has been very effective, and we have normalized, we have mainstreamed, one, the use of words for social change, and taken the message of social justice out. And people have been really proactive.
Yeah,
because we also, as much as we do it on ground, we take those clips and post them online. Yeah.
Good job. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
Ademba, civic education. Unajua, we've always been told this was the IBC's role actually, to do civic education. They have a budget for that, for which we expect them to do anyway. But where we are as a society, how best do we go about this whole idea of civic education? He has taken the poetry route, like the larger population.
I have a group of people. It's me, Shakira, Mabonga, and other people. We've been going across this country to do the civic education. And actually, it's Kenya. Before anything changes, it's Kenya who fund it. Kenyans will send you money online when they see you do something. So like the last time we were in Busia, Bungoma, we were in Bungoma doing civic education. And you see, what we do is take the message to the people in a way that they will most understand it. Because IBC will come to do civic education, but they will mostly tell you how you are going to vote and when you are supposed to be voting. But for us, we are extending it to who you should not vote to.
Political education.
Political education. Because if we are only focusing that you should vote, I don't know, you should put your finger this way, that's the role of IBC, to make sure that there are no spoiled votes. Sisi, we are coming to tell you that, usipige Ruto kura. But they should not usipige Ruto kura, let me just say that. So what is happening is, for civic education, that is the most crucial aspect of electing the most competent leaders and the most we want leaders to change Kenya in the near future, in the current future, and today. So because let us go back to time before 2017, before 2013, and those other elections. Yes, there was civic education. But you see, people depended on IBC to do the civic education. But we've come to a point that we don't even need to go to the street to do the civic education. I have a TikTok platform that is hosting over 27 million people every month, viewers. If you go to the insights, you get over 27 million people. And what I do there is, I don't go there to praise brands or something. I go there to do civic education. I'm telling people that it is your right to do this thing. It is your right not to elect this person. And if you elect this person, follow the track record, follow the competency, follow the manifesto, follow the agendas of what they've done. And because don't vote for this person because of party loyalty. Don't vote for this person because he's in the government for so long. No. What if he's in the government for 47 years and he's done nothing for 47 years? So we should not be recycling these leaders. And that's the place of civic education right now. We do civic education online, kwa ground, X, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And it is creating change. It is creating awareness. Let me tell you the impact of civic education online and civic education through art, as Willie is doing it. In 2024, last year, we've had finance bill ever since Kenya started. We've asked them. But you find that a little to a couple of people were understanding. Even people are not paying attention to why the finance bill is important. You see? Because what was happening is just the people who are in charge of the finance bill coming, reading it to you. But now Kenya started to understand this thing, and Kenya started to decode the finance bill bit by bit. That is civic education. So civic education does not stop at telling people to vote what IBC is doing. For us, civic education entails everything. Political education to us is civic education, telling these people that vote for this person, don't vote for this person. And you see what happened last year. People were holding X spaces for 12 hours just trying to explain what the finance bill is about. People were exposing the government secret. That is civic education to us. People are exposing the wrongdoings of this government, let me say, kuiba pesa and everything that was happening last year. So that's civic education to us. And to IBC, you continue with what we are doing. But for us, we believe that us using our voices to champion for what we want is the best thing ever. Because what IBC will come. We've had what they call them public participation all over, I don't know, on different things that are happening in the government. But if you ask a normal Kenya, where was this thing happening? Nobody knows. For us, we are trying to make sure that everybody understand the role that they have to play in election, the role that they have to play in holding the leaders accountable, the role that they have to play in making sure that we have the right future, the role that they have to play in making sure that there is no corruption, the role that they have to play in making sure that incompetency and things like transparency are there in the government. So for us, civic education is the best thing right now. And for every young person, for everybody that is host or having a smartphone, don't mind the numbers that you have 10 followers. Yes, start with those 10 followers. This thing will grow organically, as we usually say. Because I started civic education in around when I first got my employment at somewhere, I will not mention. It is something that deals with creative and things like that. We started civic education at that point, and I didn't have the numbers, but we kept doing it. Right now, I have a bigger following because of the consistency. So don't look at the numbers that, okay, who am I going to do this to? The one person that consumed your message and he was not aware of the message 10 minutes ago, that's a plus to us. So we are going to continue with civic education. And this Saturday, we have a group that is going to town to go around Kiambu, just trying to educate these people on a lot of things. Education is one of them, because we need the government to make sure that we have the right education in Kenya. So we are doing things like political education also. And when I'm saying political education, it's not just saying that usipige mtu kura, mupige mtu kura. We are also trying to empower these young people that wherever as a youth you are in a position to be elected as a representative of a certain position. You are eligible to be elected as a MCA. You are eligible to be elected as a MP, senator, women rep, president, governor. Don't look past what you have in your pocket to not allowing you to vie for these positions. Because right now we are trying to deconstruct the old narrative of kitu kidogo, mtu wetu syndrome. Uni kijana mdogo atafanya kazi gani, umwai work na nani. We are trying to deconstruct all that, and we are trying to make sure that the generation that we have, right, because we are preaching fagia wote. When we fagia wote, who is coming in? The younger people, want them to occupy these seats. And it's not that we are going to vote a younger person because you are young. We are going to vote you because you are capable to hold these positions. You have the right qualifications for this position. You are the most competent person. You have the right knowledge on the position that you're wanting to vie on. You have the most progressive mindset when it comes to changing Kenya. So we are holding these young people accountable before we elect them. If we're saying that we are going to elect Gen Zs, then anybody that can come, we are going to elect them. We can have a 27-year-old, because he's a Gen Z, we are electing him, but it's going to do the most shoddy work. But we can have a 35-year-old who is competent enough, or we can have somebody, because we've had people like Senator Nyonka, has been in the government for over 15 years and has been doing a good work. So why not re-elect them? Not at Isaju, yes, Gen Z, and he's been doing some good work less. If you see that this person is fit to hold this position, please re-elect them. But if you deem this person unready, corrupt, unsteady, unfit, don't elect them. So that's the level of civic education to us.
Yeah, good job. That's great. You're doing a fantastic job, and I hope the people are receiving the message as should. I just want to understand from the two of you, what makes you angry about Kenya and what makes you happy about Kenya? You can start with either. What makes you happy or angry?
Wow. Just to mention, Tony Kate Bambara said, the work of an artist is to make the revolution irresistible. And one of the things that made the protest very successful, 2024, 2025, we had protest songs, we had pieces like I'm Offended, the ones we did with Nonini, Anguka Nayo, and people came outside, they danced to the tunes, and the revolution is very fun. It's supposed to be very fun because we're emancipating the people. So civic education, political education through art, going around the campaigns, the flash mobs, that is also the way. That is how we will emancipate this country, because we need to get to a point of the revolution of the mindset. Because Zakayo lazima anguke. Zakayo lazima aende. Lazima. And Zakayo does not mean the Ruto and the peke yake. The systemic change is a total overhaul ya impunity from MCA to MP, because right now the institution here, parliament, is being used by the executive, not for the things that it was meant for. Right now it's an arm to continue centralizing power around the executive. So the National Assembly in its entirety has been sanctioned by the government. So we need the revolution of the mindset. And the young people need to understand we will only have a new generation of leaders when we have a new generation of voters. Because by design, the young people have been depoliticized. And we have a president who is not popular because he only got 7.1 million votes and 8.1 million people did not vote. And majority of these people are the young people because they saw no need to vote. But through civic education, through art and political education, right now we inspire the hope, and people see the young people can talk about these things, because bad leaders are elected by, one, good citizens who don't vote, and good citizens who don't think they can be in positions to be in leadership, because we've left leadership to be a reserve of politicians in Kenya, and it should be the other way around. Leadership, we should not necessarily be led by politicians. And that is why we have people who have scandals, because we've been depoliticized and we see leadership is a reserve for certain kind of people who are scandalous and all that, who dish out money, and it's become a norm. And now we need to deconstruct that mindset, and we need a revolution of the mindset. We need to show people a new reality. Yeah. So one thing that makes me very happy with Kenya is the people of Kenya, when they decide, when they come together, so much can happen, so much great things can happen. The people of Kenya are very good, they're very warm, they're very decisive, and now they are getting emancipated. So, and I'm very hopeful right now. I'm very hopeful. We are not where we want to be, but we have to respect the fact that we are not where we used to be. We've come a long way, and I have to appreciate also that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. Even just being here, there are people who've died, there are people who have been killed, there are people who have been imprisoned, so that we can exercise our freedom of speech. And the Gen Zs and we as young people right at this time, this is not a generational war, it's not a class war. Even when we say like total overhaul, we mean total overhaul of the people who are not working, who are contravening the constitution. So we don't want to get caught into a situation when we say fagia wote, and then we replicate what the other people are doing with tribalism. We do affirmative action that is nonsensical, because we have leaders also who are working. So we want to be different and lead different in a different way. One thing that makes me very sad is that I have traveled so much, and when I see other countries, they are very small. We have a very like even big European economies that have grey societies. We don't have children. We only have like old people, and systems are just working. They are very small. You don't see things happening. You don't see things moving, but things are just happening. And then you look at Kenya. We have great people. We have vast resources. We have land. We have good weather, and things are not moving. The rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting poorer. So that makes me really sad, and inanipea hasira even more, because when you see other countries, when you see other societies working with so little, and then you look at your country, you're blessed with so much, but only a few people ndio wanna benefit from that, it gives you a resolve to even fight more. Yeah.
Great. Ademba.
Yes. First, I love to start by saying that what I love most about Kenya is the level of political awareness that the younger generation have right now, or people call it, we are politically woke. That's the right time to use. Why am I saying this? Right now, before 2024, before 2023, the younger people didn't pay much attention to the politics or who runs the country. And that's why you find that the turnouts of younger people coming to vote was low. Let us start by this. When Kenyans were fighting for second liberation, you find that something came up that is now called the youth wing. Why did it come up? Because the younger percentage that was going to vote at that point was only 40%. So, because we have the minority obvious, and that's why right now tukona vitu kama, okay, not minority, but special cases. Right now tukona women rep. So you find that during the second liberation, the 40% of the voters were the younger people, only 40%. So they come up with the youth league in different political parties and everything.
Affirmative action.
Affirmative action, yeah. Right now, the younger population that is going to vote come 2027 is 18 million.
Have they registered?
No, let's start with this. It's 18 million. And that's why we are doing civic education to make sure that these people register as voters. So if the people that are going to vote are 18 million, and we do away with 3 million to say, itakuwa spoiled vote, then we are going to have 15 million. Willie has made it clear that the president won with 7.1 million votes. How many of us are we going to vote? Let me just use 15 million. That is enough to elect a president, by the way. 15 million with a very big margin gap. If the people who voted the president are still going to start with that 7 million, that's okay. But the younger people, let me just use the 15 million. If we go to vote, we can create the biggest change that we want. We will, actually. Yeah. So we were put in the youth wing because the number was less at that time. Right now, we are the majority. So what to tengeneza the elder wing?
I like that.
Let us make the elder wing because we are going to be the majority of Kenyans. And 95% of the problem that we are facing are actually for the younger generation. So let us have the elder wing, but youth, what I'm trying to say is make sure that you occupy the biggest percentage of the political seats that we have in Kenya. The parliament is made of 351 people, the parliament of Kenya, if you do the overall mathematics. Make sure that we have at least 250 people from the younger generation.
Or the 290.
Or the 290. We have the younger generation,
to
basically.
The old league to appear nominated.
To appear nominations. So that's why I'm saying the political awareness that we have right now can actually make change. And also, to make this clear, what I also love about Kenya is the fact that nobody right now anakuwa na ile story you should not be doing this. Because you are the younger generation, respect the older generation, so don't do this. No, if something is wrong, we are going to fight it the way it is. We don't care about how you are going to deem us. You know, there was a point that ulikuwa ukiingia matatu, unamkia the older person because ameingia. Why should I stand for you? Umeona hii gari imejaa ukaingia ndani. Mbona nikwamkie? Ungengoja a couple of other cars zinakuja. So what is happening is we are going to fight things the way they are. If this is the wrong thing, we are going to tackle it. If, let's say, Murkomen is the wrong person that we have in politics and we have wanting to go, tutatengeneza even our own. Hizo vitu watu na present nitwaje? The petitions to make sure that this person goes. You see? When we have somebody like Ross Njeri coming out to create a platform that was going to help people reject the finance bill or present their petitions to the finance bill, that also shows the tech savviness that we have. And I'm coming to the point of tech savviness because this old political class have been depending kuiba kura to make them in the office. Each and every election you hear that votes were stolen. Why? Mostly digitally. They don't go steal at wanamechukua hii box wameweka hapa. They steal them digitally. And we are the most tech-savvy generation. So right now, as we are fighting for change in 2027, also let us start fighting for how we are going to stop these people from stealing these votes. Even if it's hacking and making sure that whatever they do, the vote count continues vizuri. I'm not saying that sisi pia tuibe votes. I'm not saying that, just to make it clear. But let us find a way of making sure that our is easy kura. There's no tech-savvy generation than us.
Okay. That is assuming that the other people in those systems don't have young people.
Okay.
They have. No,
that's a problem.
That is a point for you to think. However, let me go to my question that I wanted to ask that has been very key. Even the president mentioned, you're saying every day Ruto must go. Everyone goes to the streets and says Ruto must go. So how do the young people want the president to go before 2027? Because you're speaking of elections. So in your mind, essentially you're using the democratic way of how the country is run. So between now and 2027, what is this Ruto must go?
Okay, I would love to go on that.
Yes.
Before Ademba is called an NIS agent propagating 2027. Either way, if Ruto goes today, tomorrow, that seat was not made for him. It's not his birthright. Even kings go.
Yeah, true.
So even if he goes this evening on the next moment, we will still at some point, because it's enshrined in the constitution. I'm not saying democracy is the right way, because also democracy is the dictatorship of the majority. And we have people who democratically elect someone not from a point of knowledge, but classist and tribalist records. So also democracy has its own shortcoming, but we have universally accepted democracy.
Yeah.
So even if Ruto goes tomorrow, next month, or Saba Saba, or 2027, one thing that is also deflating people is that their thinking and their strategy starts and ends with Ruto. And that is why Ruto comes out, how do you want me to go? Bro, who are you in the first place? You are just a human being from Sugoi. You will go either way, even if people decide. And the constitution states the citizens can, they can represent, the power belongs to the people, and it can be either directly or indirectly. So directly means that the National Assembly is not working. And the people, because we are the ones who elected these people, and there's no IBC to recall these people, we can share our discord. Like directly, we can come to the streets and camp on the streets and say, we are dissatisfied and we don't want you because of 1, 2, 3 things. That is still constitutional. So when Ruto comes out and say, how do you want me to go? He knows how we want, is he a small child? He knows how we want him to go, and he knows how he should go, and he knows he doesn't have legitimacy. So and the people are playing to his game, because now the people are agonizing instead of organizing, and people are not organizing around also getting ID cards and securing their votes and registering and focusing on IBC, because now people are fixated on Ruto as an individual, thinking their problems start and end with Ruto, forgetting we can remove Ruto and end up with someone even worse, or even someone better. So we also need to organize beyond Ruto, okay? So even if we remove him, and we will remove him, we have people who are ready not to repeat the same mistakes. We have young voters who have their votes, who are emancipated, who are ready to vote on the lines, track record. Because now if it gets to 2027 and still the young people are disenfranchised, we might have the same results. So the people need to start organizing. As much as we're in the streets, we also need to have our voters card. We need to secure our voters card. We need to secure our IDs. We need to be one step ahead, because if we win playing their game, then we have lost. And they know this politics game. And that is why we need a total overhaul, because we don't need politicians as leaders, because they're playing politics with everything. The CS's health and everything, it's a politics of tokenism, because they're trying to bring together their bases, their support base, in the run-up to 2027. Also, the courts is in cahoots, because now they keep postponing the formulation of IBC because they want to disenfranchise.
We actually have an IBC.
It was stopped.
It was the protest was halted.
It was passed. It was signed.
It was the finish everything.
There was a court. There was.
I saw another court injunction trying to like stop the process.
I think injunctions are suggestions. Mostly.
So they're trying to frustrate the process, the democratic process, so that the young people continue repeating the same mistakes, so that the young people keep being on the streets. So, because if a young person comes out and say, I want to be the MP, you start saying, this is a paid activist, this is, because they want to it is intentional. So that you just keep on being on the streets, you just keep on focusing on Ruto, like we focused on an ICC inductee for 10 years, and then we had another one for another 5 years now, 3 years now. So we keep focusing on individuals, because also our politics, for the longest time, we don't vote we don't vote the better person, we vote the better devil. We vote against, we don't vote for. And many people who voted for Ruto in 2022 were voting against Raila. So they were voting against someone else so that they have someone else. So right now, also they're creating scenarios whereby now Rigiji is seen as a hero and they want to use him to revenge. I mean, that's bullshit.
Doesn't make sense. Ruto must go. This is the call you've been saying, and we know for our country, as is, of course he spoke, it's democracy. So that means he has like 5 years. That is following the constitution, because you've all quoted the constitutional law. So even I am quoting what is right in the constitution. The 2 years, you're saying Ruto must go. What do you want Ruto to do? Or how do you want him to go? Or go and then what?
Most people are afraid to answer this thing in a certain way. When people are saying Ruto must go, people are just discontented with its leadership. People actually want Ruto to resign and leave the office. But as we are fighting Ruto must go, we must also be fighting for who must come. So I've answered the first question right, because people just want Ruto to resign, because that's everything that people are saying. Read the placards, read the tweets, watch the TikTok videos, watch the documentary that people have been doing. People just want the president to resign, the president of Kenya. So as we're fighting Ruto must go, we must also be fighting Ruto, who must come. As we fight Ruto must go, we must also be fighting who must come. And for the longest time, the bar has been so low to us that we have been electing. We have been electing lesser devil. A devil is a devil, you see? The bar has been so low to us that the president that we have is ex-ICC, accused person, right? The deputy was also in ICC, I don't know for what reason.
Yep, so they would say they were cleared.
Yeah,
they were not. The case, Ruto's case, I was in ICC. His case is still active. The witnesses were killed. There are no witnesses.
So you see?
So when you have no witnesses, cases are cleared. They are there, but...
So also the judicial system is very murky, because if there's no evidence, it doesn't mean the crime was not committed.
That I agree. I'm just saying, as in looking at it from what we have. I'm not a lawyer, so
the case is still active.
I understand that. Also, when I was talking about the lesser devil,
yes.
Okay, let me do away with the president, the deputy, and what is the name of this DCI? Amin. Yeah, I also saw a picture. It was in ICC, apparently. So what am I trying to drive at? We come to a point that we are fighting the lesser evil or the lesser most corrupt person when electing people. Because when Ruto was coming into power, people were trying to do away with Uhuru, right? So we find that right now that Ruto is going to be out of the office, God willing, is going to be out of the office. People have this notion that Rigathi is the right person. You see, we don't want a system where, because we are liba kuku, wacha tupe mwenye aliba sukari. Sukari ni kidogo za kuku. No, we don't want that, honestly. If we are going to fight wezi, we do away with all the wezi. You see? So, for me, and I know for the biggest percentage of Kenya outside there, the current people who are fighting so much to get into the government are actually the same people who have been creating the problem that we are fighting right now. They are the same corrupt politicians. They are the same ways that we are fighting. They are the same people who have made sure that Kenya, there is no development. They are the same people who have been fighting so much to make sure that this narrative of Gen Z 15 million strong does not come. And that's why they have been trying so much to go in line with what the Gen Z are saying by picking some, let me say, picking some people who presented themselves as Gen Z leaders. We saw that with people like Morara or people like Kasmuel. They are trying to pick these people to make sure that, oh, Yonekane or Gen Z. And you see, when these people come to do some of the presses, some of the interviews, they usually say that we are pro the Gen Z. Why? Because they just want to run with this thing. There's a picture I saw that, it's a picture that contains the entire Kenyan problem in one.
Very famous photo.
Yeah. The famous
in court.
photo.
In court, yes.
In court. That picture, iko na shida za Kenya zote. Because they are the same people that were fighting the picture as Ruto, the picture as Raila, and the picture as Uhuru Kenyatta, and the rest of them. A single picture inaonyesha hii ndio shida, and the same Kenyans still want to vote this shida. The same people, you can just go type on YouTube or anywhere and see that these people ndio wamekuwa shida. All along they have been fought. Ruto, when he was in which ministry, this amount was lost, this amount of lost. A lot of corruption cases with people like Gachagua. A lot of, okay, we have some people like Akina Kalonzo. They are the same problems. They have been in the government, but what have they done while they're in the government? What did Matiang'i do? When Matiang'i came into the system, we had media shutdown, we had Baby Pendo was killed, we had Kinjakoma brother, the twins, and we still had Rivayala problems. We had a lot of problems with Matiang'i. That just tell you that there's no way that we are going to fight for lesser evil. Nairobians elected Esther Passaris as their women rep. The same person right now that is trying so much to stop Gen Zs from going to demonstrations. Yeah? How low was the bar for us? How low was the bar for us that we elected ICC criminals as the leaders of this nation? How bad was that we have people like Murkomen in the government? How low is the bar for us that we have people like...
Mimi ni noma si noma.
Okay. How low is the bar for us that the people holding some of the most crucial cabinet secretaries in Kenya were accused of being the drug traffickers in the country?
The bar was so low.
The bar
was so low for that.
And you know why? Because also, what's the definition of the opposition in the Kenyan context? I've always had the opposition is the government in waiting. We've never had a real opposition in Kenya. And right now, the president and the government is facing real opposition because now everyone has been unmasked. And also in every protest, I'm always waiting for Sifuna to come out with his statements. This is not what we signed up for as ODM. Bro, you're in government. Stop trying to fool people because now you've been unmasked. And the bar has been so low because like governance is like a space. The oligarchs sit together and they know even if Gachagua becomes president tomorrow, he will never jail Ruto because they believe in the same ideology, they share the same stories, they share the same spaces. And they have their candidate for they're puppets of each other's wrongdoings. So they protect their own spaces. And that is why when people came out to the streets June 25th and they said people for a long haul thought Raila was fighting for the same cause that they were fighting for. And they told him, just stay at home and we will be out here. You've been in jail for the longest time. You've been speaking this message, governance and democracy. We will activate what you've been saying for the longest time. But he came out. Why? Because I know perfect scenario, Ruto called him probably and said, we've been fighting for this thing since 2007. Now I have it. It's here. What do you want us to do with it? They want to remove it from us because they knew if we had someone else outside the system, they would be completely alienated. And that is why they've never gone for Moi. That is why since 1963 we've had very punitive governments, but justice has never been served because we've had the same people. Kalonzo has been outside since 2013, but he still enjoys state power. But he speaks our language, quote unquote, but he knows if Mudavadi is the president tomorrow, Kalonzo is okay. They're the same people. Mudavadi has been outside the cold for the longest time, but somehow he's been able to manage. Everyone has been able to manage but they know if someone from outside comes in, we'll start following up on the historical injustice. How comes you have 500,000 hectares of land, and some other people do not have.
And also to ask a question following that. Why do we keep recycling the same old leaders?
Introspection. We can't blame them, by the way.
Okay.
They only have like, give and take, they only have like 100 votes.
Who?
Them,
The leaders.
the ones that sit at the table.
Yeah.
If you put them together, their votes won't be more than 1,000. That's including their families.
So why do we keep recycling?
So
Because
that's why I
it's by
said.
design.
That's why I said it's upon the citizens. Because you see, you can't tell Ruto he did not make himself president. He can't have 7 million votes by himself.
Exactly.
He only has one. So it's,
Call for introspection.
yes, we can't just be throwing and saying it's.
I think it's them.
They contributed, but the bigger chunk is
with the
who has
people.
the vote, yeah.
Votes,
I think the people have been disenfranchised to an extent that we've been given these few options for the longest time. We never had opposition, and now we do. Now we have. And in the next elections, be it tomorrow or 2027, you will see that translate in the ballot. And so many of these MPs who even came with Ate, Kina Jalango, crazy people, they will be ousted.
We are watching and waiting.
Yes.
It's been such an
because now the people have been emancipated. The people had very few options, and because they thought we had a real opposition, and now people understand we don't have a real opposition. So we've been given very slim options. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because to run for presidency in Kenya is super expensive.
Yeah.
Everything is, even to file a petition in the High Court is very expensive. So everything has been, we are a capitalist society, so that the people who are the majority of the people who have nothing, they cannot, their voices cannot translate to anything. So that we can have only 2 or 3 people. They fund their presidential campaigns, so they know if you pick Raila or Ruto, we are good. So we never had options, and that is why we come to things like campaign financing. But it will take time, but we will get there.
And also to add on what Mwalimu has said, this is it. When we're saying that we want a complete overhaul of the system to bring in the new young blood, to ask the voters, to ask the people who hold the actual voting cards, we also need a complete overhaul of how we think. We need to completely reset our mindset. We need to do away with tribalism, because we don't want a scenario where we are going to vote somebody because he's a Kikuyu. Not because that is competent, but because he's a Kikuyu. We don't want a position where we don't vote somebody from the Western or from the Luo Nyanza because they don't speak our language. You see, we want a situation where we are voting someone because we believe in what they can offer to the country. We want a situation where we are voting somebody because we've seen what they've done, we've seen their manifestos, we've seen their agendas, we've seen how they reason, we've seen how progressive they are when it comes to changing Kenya for the better. Yeah. So to you, the common voter, because they call you the common mwananchi, while actually you are the mwenye inchi. So have a complete overhaul on your thinking when it comes to actually casting the vote. Usiende pale usema now, we want to vote on party loyalty. That now that because I'm a member of the Orange Democratic Party, I'm going to vote from the governor, from the president to the MCA.
It was
ODM. No, we are not going to do that. We want a situation where we have a leader that can actually change Kenya. We have a leader that is coming from Mombasa, but is seeing the problems of people coming from Bungoma as the same problems. We want a situation where the leader who we voted in is actually seeing that these people are in the street because of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how can we work on solving this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Even if we cannot solve 5 of them, let us solve 3 of them. Then we work on this other, the rest or the 2 that are remaining. So have a complete overhaul on how you are going to think. And maybe I'm saying this message, but it's going to go to a certain generation of people. We are not fighting a generational war. If you are in a position to pass the same message to a Kikuyu, to a Luya, to a Kisii, to a Luo, in the most simple way that they can do, please do so and tell them that we want change. We don't want politicians. We want leaders, not politicians. We want leaders that are not partisan. We want leaders that are pro-Kenyans. And yes, we believe that there is need for parties to get into these offices, but that does not stop you from voting for the right leader.
Vote for the right person. Hey, Ademba, thank you. We have to end this show here. That was the very ideal message to end it. It's been such an amazing conversation we've had, and I've loved it. I hope even our viewers did. But before we go, it will only be fair if we give you a chance to drop a piece as we tell the viewers. Thank you for watching this episode of Fanya Mambo Africa. We'll see you on the next episodes. Over to you, Willie.
Point he said that stuck with me, that pesa ya kisima waliiba
Kwa damu. That's the damn truth.
Wacha tuanze na hiyo.
Piga.
Pesa ya kisima waliiba, and that's the damn truth. Sudden death is viewed kama spoiled votes. That's the sad truth. Hakuna food, shelter, mata, clothing. That's the naked truth. Mayouth hawana fare kwenda job interview. Politician kenye namsumbua ni mafuta ya ndege. Well, that's the plain truth. Life ain't easy. That's the hard truth. It's not about sagging. Drugs when I create my wasted youth. Inchi mashefa wezi afford ile food wana cook. Domoptician wanalipo wezi hata piga look. Kill sin to see God. Hata utoe tithe aje tiketi ya heaven and unului maimuk. Itakuwaje cry za tajiri ni intellectual lakini cry za maskini kwa masikio ya justice ni kelele. Itakuwaje una believe in me na nikicheza kimimi unashikwa na kiwewe. Na effect ya nguvu ya thawe inafika malinduru ya mnyonge iwezi fika. Ballot box na DSTV zinafika malidisha iwezi fika. Watoto wanalala njaa juu wewe ulikunywa na pesa ya kula na vizuri unajua pombe iwezi lika. Wanasiasa wanadanganya. Na uchumi imekuwa mbaya ambako ukisaidia rafiki yako pesa yako unapoteza rafiki yako na pesa yako. Uchumi imekuwa mbaya, hakuna kenye ina move, hata wasusi ya wasongi, watu wa piercing tu ndo wanatoboa. Sauti Sol wamekuwa at the top. Uchumi imekuwa mbaya mpaka sasa Alusa amedecide kugo topless. Na unatafuta mapenzi wapi? Na ile hoteli yenye unaenda ukiwa peke yako, ukiwa na manzi yako, ile hoteli yenye unaenda ukiwa na manzi yako, ukiwa peke yako, wewe kijana huwezi jipeleka. Jesus alibetraywa na kiss. Na nyinyi mko hapo mnajichocha juu mlipewa hug. Wajinga nyinyi. Because during hii reign ya Zakayo, the youth amekuwa one gunshot away from being a hashtag. Talk is cheap. Fortunately, citizens cannot buy that because wako $1 away from the poverty line. IBC ndio iko na price tag. Our moms wako one demolition away from kulala njaa to kulala nje. Huyo makanga ako only one police stop away from kulose another finje. The middle class ako one disease away from poverty. And every level of governance is a step away from humility. There is nothing to smile about when I know I am one stray bullet away from being a statistic. Na degree ni makaratasi tu, hata mimi niko na mbili, but now to put food on my mama's table through poetry, I have to be sarcastic. Nasema life ni short na siongelei kinyasa. Na account ya mwananchi ni empty kama promises za mwanasiasa. Account ya mwananchi ni empty kama akili ya mwanasiasa. The president is talented in the art ya contempt of court. The law is very clear. His conscience is not.